Good afternoon. We're going to a YouTube meetup at a coffee shop, I believe. I'm looking forward to it. Never been to this one before. There's been one other one. Been to that one 3 times. Never brought the camera just because I'm like, eh. But this one, I decided to bring. Perhaps make a little moving picture out of it, yes? Now then. Awesome. We're about 3 minutes early. I'm thinking some coffee's in order. Caffeine's always good. I'm excited. How's it going, man? That was awesome and all, but I just quickly discovered that it's too hot in there for my hoodie, so I'm gonna go ahead and put it back in the car. Much better. I'm not being blasted and roasted from the inside out anymore.
Video, it's better to underexpose it than overexpose it. Because if you overexpose it almost all the time, it's lost. You know, you've lost that. If it's underexposed, you know, where I was telling you, you can take the 110 and compress it down. Well, you can reach down and grab like the 75 level and yank it up to 100 again and recover a lot of stuff in there.
Which is what makes ND filters useful.
Well, the reason you want neutral density filters, now you've come from a still background, still photography background?
I started video way before I did photography.
Okay, well good, you know, we do this. A lot of people get into video from a still photography background. They were like sports photographers or something like that. And so they're always willing to jack with their shutter speed.
Yes, right.
Okay? And so they will go out and it's a bright sunny day. And so what they will do is they close down just as far as they can on their aperture, but they still have too much exposure. So they crank it up to 1,000th of a second and they shoot video with that. The problem with that one is it's great for still photography where you got one frame, but when you shoot it in video, it looks like stop motion animation because there is no motion blur.
Rolling
Okay,
shutter.
stuff that is moving, when you shoot it at 30 frames a second, the moving stuff should have a little bit of blur to it. If you don't, it's going to go tick, 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 tick instead of a smooth move. You want the neutral density filters. If you're shooting 30 frames a second, you really don't want to have your shutter speed faster than a 60th of a second. It should be somewhere between a 30th of a second. You couldn't do that mechanically with the old cameras, the film cameras, because you had to physically move the film. Here's another deal. Okay, if you're shooting off either a gimbal or a tripod and you're going to do any pans or anything like that, if your camera has automatic image stabilization in it, shut it off.
Okay.
And the reason you want to do that is because while you're making that smooth pan, the camera thinks you're moving the camera. And so it's correcting for it, and it will correct as far as it can, and then when
I had never thought about that.
And then when it reaches the end of its correction, it will jump back to the center and then pick it back up. So you'll see these little things where your image will go neat, 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 neat as it's
That's what it is.
Yeah.
Never thought about that.
When when you're shooting off of a tripod, or if you're using one of the electronic gimbal stabilizers, let that take care of it. Shut that off on your camera because those two things fight each other. That's one of the hardest things to explain. But getting back, you know, like I said, getting back to the neutral density filters, whenever I work with another camera person shooting video, one of the first things I look for is, does he have neutral density filters? Because this tells me whether he's going to be worth a damn or not, or she is going to be worth a damn or not. Because when you get out there, and even though your aperture's down just as far as you can go, and you're still having to shoot at 1,000th of a second, you start stacking neutral density filters on it to cut the amount of light coming through to get it back down to about a 60th of a second. And you know, on a bright today, you know, you crank your ISO or your gain down just as far as you can, and you get better image quality for that anyhow. And then the other thing you want to do is you want to pick a median aperture setting so your depth of field is not too great. You want enough room to work with, but you don't, unless the shot calls for it, you usually don't want your backgrounds to be too sharp because that will be distracting. You want to duplicate the fact that I'm looking here, my eyes are focused here, and everything else further beyond is a little bit out of focus. This is what's getting my attention. Now, if this is in sharp focus and that's in sharp focus, people are going to be looking at those lights over there instead of this, which is what they want to do.
Because shiny gets attention.
Yeah.
Okay.
We have stereoscopic vision. People see things, okay? Now, we're looking at this thing. We sort of notice the phone because it's in line with the thing. But as we're looking with this, we tend to not notice that there are people in the background, okay? And there's activity and stuff going on there. The fact is, we're looking at this thing and our brain kind of filters out the background. Now, let's use a still image as an example. Now, I take this camera and I take a picture of this thing that we are looking at, and we were looking at it completely. Then we print out that picture and I lay it down in front of me. The picture is now the thing. You see the picture, you see the people in the background, you see the stuff going on around the whole thing. You're no longer focused on this thing, you're focused on the picture. That's the way it is on the screen. You use your depth of field, selective focus, to simulate the fact that your brain blacks out the background, and that way it takes the place of a
So what's the ideal f-stop you use for?
Well, it depends. It will depend on what I'm shooting and the conditions that I'm under. I almost always try to make sure that the actors are in good sharp focus through the range that they're going to work on, and then we've got enough, you know, the larger you open up the aperture, the shallower your depth of field gets. Okay. So that's why you also need the neutral density filters, so you can slow down your shutter, so you have to open up the aperture more. Digital video is beautiful because you get immediate feedback as to whether something's working or not. Shoot a test shot, look at it. All you've blown is a little bit of battery time, you know. It's not like where it was $1,000 a finished minute on 35mm film. That's why you need, it helps to have a good field monitor. It doesn't have to be a 1080 thing like that. You can get, you know, one of those like 720, but something that you can sit back and look at and go, yeah, that works, that's fine, the whole deal like that. Perversely, I tend to not pay too much attention to the actors and what's in the foreground, because if I'm your director of photography, it's just my job to make sure that they're in focus. The director is supposed to pay attention to getting to do everything. I'm looking at the backgrounds. Backgrounds make or break you on this thing, because if you put them up against a busy background, people are going to start watching the background, even though it might be a little out of focus.
It gets distracting.
And I've gotten in big arguments with directors they walked up and they looked and they focused on you. And they didn't see the guy standing behind you growing out of the top of your head. Okay? And like that. And they're going, but this is the angle I want to shoot at. Yeah, okay, we want the Nirvana coffee thing sitting on top of her head like a halo. They're not looking at the background. I'm sitting here, I'm going, okay, now if we move just this
little
far, suddenly it's you. We can still see what's in the background, but it doesn't look like it's attached to you. You know, and that's the nice thing, because you can show them that in the camera. It's not look through the viewfinder, it's look at the screen. And directors and I, you know, we've gotten in other minor arguments on the whole thing, where the director is watching the actors like this as we're going along, and I'm kind of like going, no, look at the monitor. The rest of the world does not exist. Our world exists in the monitor. Pay attention to what you see in the monitor and ignore all that other junk, you know? Because that's all we're delivering is what's in the monitor.
I'm very thankful for that, especially when my office is a mess.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. The studio that I'm like, it may look great, this little like 5 foot by 4 foot section, but you turn it this way. Oh,
It's all a lie. It's all a lie. Photography is all a lie. That's all it's ever been. And that's all that video is just a string of still images.
that was made even more evident to me when I was, before I got out of bed one morning, I somehow got onto an Instagram recommended or we think you'd like, blah, blah, blah. And it was a bunch of clips of like studio, like Hollywood level studios. For example, one of them was, it was a GoPro attached to the back part of a crane, and you could see the crane come this way and the camera go forward on the dolly, but it was going towards the window of a house. And then it went closer, and then it cut to, here's the window, here's the camera coming through, and there's a guy right here. Camera comes through, the guy like jumps up and takes the camera and just continues in one seamless motion. I was like, dude, that's crazy. And there was another one similarly, but there was a big open area and then like stairs and then a balcony up here, right? Big crazy action scene. The camera started down here, and then there was you know how the football games, you see this like camera come down these big cables that just moves everywhere? So the camera like went up this way really quickly, followed the action, and then there was a guy up here behind the camera, took it and continued on. It was crazy seeing how that stuff was done. Nuts, man.
Yeah, we had to shoot a dropped camera once, you know, to where it was all shot from the point of view of the guy making the film. And so the camera, he needed to drop the camera. Well, this is my 5D Mark II. Okay. You're talking $4,000 with a camera and lens that we needed to drop and end up in a bunch of bushes and the whole thing like that.
Did you put lots of
Put
blankets
it in a
down?
suspended box like.
No. The way we
Should
did
use
it.
GoPro for that shot.
Well, they didn't have GoPro out back then. You know, this is, you know, they had them, but you know, they hadn't caught on.
I'm laying down here as you drop it.
Right.
Now, that's almost what we did. I still needed to shoot the shot. So what we did is I put it on a monopod and stuck the end of it down there, and then we had a bunch of branches stuck in the ground, so it was the leaves and everything. And we practiced this. I had a guy that I really trusted that I'd worked with before, a real good friend. And what I did is we had the shot, and then I just literally dropped the camera and let it go like this, and he caught it. So it, you know, just before it hit the ground, he like this, so he held it right where it needed to be, so you could see the people running away through, you know, through the branches in front of them.
Nice.
And, you know,
That's a tricky shot.
yeah, it worked.
I mean, with GoPro, it would have been much easier. You can just throw it away.
Yeah, GoPros are disposable cameras. You know, if there's a shot where we want to keep, you know, I would not hesitate to burn a GoPro to get a good shot. You know, I'd put it in the underwater case and put it in the house and burn everything down around it and then hose it off, you know, get the memory card out, you know. And there's actually footage of, I think it was, SpaceX was test firing one of their rockets on stand. And they had a GoPro filming the thing, and you're sitting there watching it, and all of a sudden you see like everything start to crumple in a little bit as the case is melting.
Oh my god.
You know, they just you know, they wanted that shot, you know, and it got so hot that it
I
just
saw
melted
this
the camera.
video where someone filmed inside the washing machine. Yeah, they put GoPro in laundry. And,
Really?
Yeah, it was filmed as the laundry was being done. That was pretty good.
With the S7 when it first
S7?
came out, too.
Really?
Stuck in the washing machine.
That's
I don't
awesome.
know if they recorded it, but they like, hey, this is pretty
That looks pretty good, man.
Yeah, I just wondered how they lit it.
What is this?
Yeah, it's dark in a washing machine.
Yeah, true. Maybe there was a case with LED lights attached to it or something.
They probably did something to it like that, but you know, that's what I was thinking. You know, okay, how are you going to light that?
Right, right.
Oh, if you have those, you know, glass machines,
glass,
you can
yeah.
just
That
put
might work.
light source from outside.
Yeah.
True.
Yeah, I bet that would make you sick when you try to watch it.
All right, eventful, insightful as well. So what we're gonna do now is probably just go home. I got the final shot that I needed for the video that I was working on with 4 cans, and I'll probably just put that in right here. And because it's getting so chilly, we're about to bah, and then bah again. This is the scariest. I went up, okay, I'm getting ahead of myself. Hold on. I went up to the parking garage that I was parked right beside just so I could get some drone shots. This is the scariest parking garage I've ever seen in my entire life. We're like 4 or 5 stories up, and hold on. There's a car down there. There's no walls. Cables that are keeping cars from, like, you know, if you forget to put it in park or if you have it in drive instead of reverse and you hit the gas pedal, vroom, splat. No. Anyways, I'm gonna get off here before somebody thinks I'm up here doing drugs or something. Stay beaming.